Mahama has submitted the following ministerial nominations to the Speaker of Parliament in accordance with Article 78 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. The first person, Honorable Dr. Kesel Atoba Forsing, Minister for Finance Designate. We also have Honorable John Abdullah Jinapor, Minister for Energy Designate, and then Honorable Dominic Ayene, Attorney General and Minister for Justice Designate. Let me go through the list again. Dr. Kesel Atoforsing, Minister for Finance Designate. John Abdullah Jinapor, Minister for Energy Designate, and then Dominic Ayene, Attorney General and Minister for Justice Designate. That is the latest coming from the office of the President, John Dramani Mahama, announcing his first set of ministerial nominations. We have details of that plus other stories where the West African Gas Pipeline Company, WAPCO, has agreed to postpone maintenance of its pipeline by 2 weeks to avert possible load shedding. Meanwhile, government is racing against time to procure fuel for power generating plants. Minority caucus in Parliament calls on President John Mahama to take immediate action against the forceful takeover of some state facilities by alleged NDC loyalists across the country. We'll also update you on efforts to avert feeding crisis due to financial constraint in senior high schools. Details of these and more in the next 30 minutes. Stay with us. Many thanks for joining us. Let's get into it now. And that breaking news coming in, the new president, John Mahama, has announced his first set of ministers. Kesel Atoforsing, Minister for Finance Designate, John Abdullah Jinapor, Minister for Energy Designate, and Dominic Ayene, Attorney General and Minister for Justice Designate. Now, this comes barely 48 hours after he was sworn in, and potential ministerial and deputy ministerial nominees of President John Mahama will face an 11-member appointment committee chaired by First Deputy Speaker Bernard Ahiafo, with Emmanuel Amakufibua serving as Vice Chairperson. Parliament on Wednesday approved the composition of the appointment committee, which will vet and recommend nominees for ministerial and other key appointments. Let me take you through the composition of the appointment committee. We have Bernard Ahiafo as Chairman, Emmanuel Amakufibua, Vice Chairperson, Kwame Governance Agboja, a member. Mahama Yariga is also a member. Agnes Namomulate is also a member. Shaibu Mahama is a member. Al-Hassan Umar is a member. Alexander Penyo Markin is ranking member of the committee. Patricia PJ, deputy ranking member. Frank Anodompre is member. And Patrick Yabuama is also a member. So that is the latest there from the appointment committee, the composition, and also the list of the new ministers that President Mahama has just announced barely 48 hours after he was sworn into office. We'll see the profile of these people, what they bring to the table, and what the expectations are of them, even as President Mahama continues to name the people that he's seeking to work with. Let us move from that and do other stories. And the West African Gas Pipeline Company, WAPCO, who is main supplier of natural gas for Ghana's power generation plant, has agreed to postpone its scheduled maintenance works by 2 weeks. WAPCO's intended maintenance of its pipeline, known as spigging, would have disrupted power supply and possibly plunged the country into a load shedding cycle. The planned maintenance, coupled with the unavailability of funds to procure liquid fuel to power generation plant, has sparked fears about the likely return of Dumso. On Wednesday, government convened an emergency meeting culminating into the formation of a technical committee to find a solution to the power sector crisis. 3FM sources have revealed that WAPCO has agreed to postpone the planned maintenance works. We're working the phone to connect to my colleague Komla Kluche, who will give us updates on what this means, and also as well as what the presidency is doing to ensure that Dumso does not return. Meanwhile, WAPCO rep has been speaking to us. We can listen to her and then come back.
Gently with our vendors. Right now we are still working to get commitment, but there is a possibility of a slight deferral. It won't be the full month, but we're looking at up to potentially 2 weeks deferral in the start of the operation.
Okay, so are you trying to say that we can defer it from January 20th to say February?
I believe it would be 3rd February.
3rd February.
It's okay.
We're continuing to work with our vendors today to see if we can make those commitments firm. But that is our target right now, is to look for as much possible deferral.
Will it be possible to defer it to, say, ending of February?
Unfortunately, I don't believe that is possible based on our current conversations with our vendors. We have a number of vendors that are already under contract and in mobilization as we speak.
So we have been listening to Micheline Beckett, who is the WAPO representative. She has been assuring us that they have agreed to postpone what is known as pigging, or the intended maintenance of it pipeline, which would have disrupted power supply and possibly plunge the country into a load shedding cycle. Well, a development that everybody is dreading, because we know the havoc that Dumso brought on lives, institutions, families, companies, as in fact the entire nation. And so while praying that it doesn't get to that place where the country returns to doom. So we know that the presidency had its first meeting, which was chaired by the Chief of Staff, and Julius Deborah, who has tasked the committee to ensure they come up with a plan that will reverse a possible doom. So we'll be connecting with Komla Kluche, who has been sitting through these meetings and monitoring them to bring us updates on what the plan has been and whether the team has been able to present a plan to the Chief of Staff as he tasked them to do by close of work yesterday. Let's move to another issue of interest. And the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools, CHAS, has called on parents to provide additional food for their children. This call comes amidst ongoing financial challenges facing the free senior high school program, including delayed government payment for food supplies. Despite earlier calls by CHAS to postpone school reopening due to these financial constraints, schools resumed operations. To mitigate the impact of these shortages, CHAS has advised parents to provide their children with additional food items like gari, shito, and sugar to supplement the school's provisions. We'll take you around the country and monitor how the situation is. But before we do that, let's go back to Parliament and look at that appointment committee list and its meetings, because my colleague Noble Crosby Annan is joining us on phone. Crosby, if you can hear me, we know that the president just announced the names of some 3 new ministers. Do we know whether this list is already in the House? Are there any reactions coming out so far?
Grace, the list is already in the House. A moment ago, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, going by the order paper, the portion of messages from the president indicated that he had received a message from the president. That message corroborated the nominations of these 3 individuals, Dr. Keslatu forcing Mr. Jinapo, as well as Dr. Agyemang, to the various positions indicated on the letter signed by Dr. Callistus Mahama as the first of 60 ministers to be appointed, the first 3 of 60 ministers to be appointed by President John Dramani Mahama. Indeed, the Speaker has spoken about it, and we've gotten reactions already from the minority side. Chief Whip Frank Kanodonpe also commended these individuals on their nomination, congratulated them on their nomination, and even cautioned them that since he's a member of the appointment committee will be waiting for them. So these 3 people, as well as the other names that the president may mention in the coming days, they should come to the appointments committee fully prepared, because this will not be business as usual.
Crosby, does that give us the indication that the appointment committee, the 11-member committee, will begin work anytime soon?
Exactly, Grace. Since the House, I'm talking about Parliament, they created this appointment committee yesterday in anticipation of this announcement and further announcement. They are expected to, in the coming days, give us timelines and begin working in earnest, so that they could either vet and approve or otherwise the president's nomination for various ministerial positions.
All right, Crosby, so let me have you hold on, but if you just joined us, there's been the breaking news, that is the President John Mahama has announced the first set of ministerial nominations, and Dr. Kesel Ato Forcing is Minister for Finance Designate, John Abdullah Jinapor, Minister for Energy Designate, and then Dominic Ayene is Attorney General and Minister for Justice Designate. And so if you just tuned in, that is the latest coming in, the first set of ministers for the second term of the Mahama administration. The now majority leader, Dr. Kesel Ato Forcing, is Minister for Finance Designate, and also John Abdullah Jinapor, Minister for Energy Designate, and then Dominic Ayene, Attorney General and Minister for Justice Designate. Crosby, what more do we know is happening in the House today?
Well, at the moment, correction of votes and proceedings is underway. But key among the things we're expecting today is that the House will approve the membership of a committee to advise the Speaker on the appointment of 4 other members of the Parliamentary Service Board. You know that 3 committees were created yesterday. The selection committee chaired by the Speaker. Then the business committee was also formed, as well as the appointments committee. So this is the next thing on the itinerary of the House today. And then we expect that the House will adjourn so that the new members of Parliament can undergo some form of orientation to put them on a good footing to represent their constituents in Parliament in the coming days.
And we know that the minority also had a press conference raising some issues. Quickly refresh our minds on that and what exactly have they been saying?
Certainly, Grace. That press conference was addressed by the Deputy Minority Leader, Patricia Agyemang. And before that, weeks ago, they were concerned about the growing spate of violence, thuggery, and intimidation. They're saying that it is being perpetrated by NDC sympathizers, supporters, because their candidates have won the elections. Now they're saying they're asking President John Dramani Mahama to intervene, to act like a president, and then order these thuggery acts of vandalism, hooliganism to stop. They're accusing the NDC members of vandalizing government agencies, Koforidua National Health Insurance Office, Tema Oil Refinery, various handlers, and all of that. They're asking that the president intervenes and orders his men to support the police to take decisive action against these acts of vandalism. They're also saying that the creation of the Operation Recover All Luchliero platform that has been created by the president is unconstitutional and is also a contributory factor to the levels of vandalism per se that we are witnessing.
All right, Crosby, we can listen to Patricia Agyemang now.
Not just those who support this by the NDC, it is deeply disheartening that in the face of these troubling developments, the president has remained largely silent since taking office. While he had made a general call for calm as president-elect, this is not enough. The president must demonstrate leadership by condemning unequivocally and directing law enforcement aid to act decisively. The events surrounding the Economic and Organized Crime Office, Yoko, where a statue was vandalized on the day of the president's inauguration, remain unresolved. The incidents in Koforidua, Tema, and other parts of the country highlight a pattern of inaction and silence from the highest office of the land. This inaction emboldens lawlessness and sends a troubling message to Ghanaians.
Well, the minority leader, Agyemang Aking, is currently speaking on the floor. Let's just quickly go there, pick the live feed, and then we'll come back.
The young ones whose destiny they may think has delayed. Sometimes we don't get it when we expect it. You are my tribesman from the same village, and it makes me proud. It makes me proud that my own brother, who has patiently walked the journey of politics, has been elevated by his colleagues to be our primus on matters of parliamentary practice. Mr. Speaker, having said that, let me add my voice to my respected colleague, the Honorable Anodompre of Nsawoma Adwejiri, who is also the Chief Whip for our side, in commending our friends, congratulating Dr. Kisil Atuba-Forson on his nomination to that enviable position as finance minister. Dr. Dominic Ayeni of the Academia Stock has also been elevated, having previously served as a deputy minister for that enclave he's going back into. And my own respected colleague, John Jinapo, he performed creditably whilst in minority. He held our feet to the fire and he gave us heavy punches. So, Mr. Speaker, it's quite obvious that he's earned it. And again, I just also would want to add to Dr. Forson's credentials and also to the young ones. On Tuesday, whilst we were on the days, he made a comment, and I would want, without his leave, put it out, that some 16 years ago, he was a backbencher, and today, he's a leader on his side. To the young ones, again and again, from this side and behind me, your day will come. He was a young man who could not be recognized, and he was just behind. After patience and industry, and loyalty to a cause has put him there. And you should emulate his hard work. So if you don't get nominated, don't be disappointed. On a very serious note, wherever you are placed, do the best you can. And one day, it will get to your turn. Mr. Speaker, having made those important points, let me also express some few observations. One, in the 8th Parliament, under President Akufo-Addo, Right Honorable Speaker made an observation, very profound, that matters Right Honorable Speaker observed that communications to the House must first be known to the House before it gets into the media. This House should not be a secondary recipient of that which is its bona fide.
So live proceedings from the floor of Parliament, and we just had the Minority Leader, Apenyo Markings, there congratulating the first three ministerial nominees, expressing good faith in the Finance Minister nominee, Dr. Kisil Atuba-Forson, admonishing the new MPs who took a cue from his life or how he has been through the mill in the House and now has risen to be a Majority Leader, and also the Finance Minister nominee. Well, we'll be following this closely because if you just tuned in, the latest is that new President Mahama has released the new set of his ministerial nominees. We have Dr. Kisil Atuba-Forson being nominated as the Minister for Finance. We also have Abdullahi Jinapo coming in as the ministerial nominee for Energy Designate, and then Dominic Ayeni as Attorney General and Minister for Justice Designate. We'll bring you a lot more on this as the day progresses. But moving away from that to another issue of interest, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools, CHAS, has called on parents to provide additional food for their children. This call comes amidst ongoing financial challenges facing the free SHS program, including delayed government payments for food supplies. Despite earlier calls by CHAS to postpone school reopening, June. Due to these financial constraints, schools resumed operations. To mitigate the impact of these shortages, CHAS has advised parents to provide their children with additional food items like gari, shito, and sugar to supplement the school's provisions. Let's do a quick check with the regions on how this is going. Ibrahim Abubakar is my colleague in the Ashanti region. Ibrahim, if you can hear me, have you been to any of the schools yet? What do we know?
Well, yes, I've been to the schools, and in fact, some of the students themselves have confirmed to me that their parents have provided them with additional food supply. Now, in the Ashanti region, some of the schools have fortunately received some amount of money to purchase food supply. But even with that, they said it cannot last them for more than 1 month. So they are hoping that government do the needful so that they will not be found wanting. For others, they've not even gotten the money at all. So it's very difficult for them. Now, what is happening is that even with the food supply, they are not getting the full complement of the food supply. So let's say OAS has 100 bags of rice, but they do not have sugar. So then the headmaster will have to say to another school that has sugar and is in need of rice. Then they will give them some bags of rice and also take oil or sugar from them. So that is
more like the schools are doing a better trade now.
Exactly. That has been what they are doing so that they will be able to survive. But like I said, even with the schools that have received some funds are saying that they cannot go beyond 1 month with the supplies they have for now. So they are indeed supporting the call by CHAS to encourage parents to make sure that they also supply their wards with some food items.
All right, Ibrahim, thank you for bringing us those updates. My colleague Ibrahim Abubakar in the Ashanti region. Let's go to the Volta region. Faisal Abdullah is joining us. Faisal, in the Ashanti region, school heads are doing butter trade. Some are trading rice for sugar or sugar for beans and all of that. Is it the same in the Volta region? Paint for us a picture.
Well, I am currently in the senior high school in the Kachinov district, where students are started arriving back to school since Monday. I am told by school authorities that for the continuing students, a number of them have come back with food items that they did not used to bring, apart from the basic food supplements like provisions such as Milo, sugar, and others that they used to bring. Some have actually brought back cooked banku, kinky, among others this time around. For the new entrants, the first students, a few of them have also come along with food items, even though the school says that they currently have food supply that can last for a few number of weeks. This is what we are seeing on the part of the students. I met one of the parents here when he came with a word, and he told me that he also had this very suggestive directive call from others. So when he was coming, he came with a number of food items for the child, hoping that just in case there is a shortage in the school, the child can hold on to that until something is done. And so, yes, parents have learned of these calls from CHAS, and so some are acting on it. For the continuing students I spoke to today, they indicated that they are very much aware of the situation in the school already. And so each of the semesters they are returning, they come very prepared for any issue of food shortage, particularly when last semester some staff in the kitchen actually went on strike, and that actually meant that for a number of days they were not able to get food from the kitchen. And so when they were coming back since Monday, they came in with...
They came prepared with their food stuff and all. All right. Faisal, thank you for those updates. Let's go to the northern region now. Christopher Mwakon is there. Christopher, we know that the situation can be even worse there after that incident at the buffer stock warehouse. Talk to us about how it looks like there.
Exactly so, Grace. It is not easy for headmasters and school authorities in the Greater Tamale Metropolis and the Sanago municipality, because looking at the incident that happened at the buffer stock warehouse, schools that did not have their food supplies are currently bearing the brunt of the food issues in the school. You know that students have reported and they are supposed to feed. So these headmasters are feeding the students with the little food that was left before the students went on vacation. And so now, as it stands, gari and beans has become the food that most of these schools feed the students with. A headmaster actually told me that he has to even rely on gari for lunch for 2 days because he doesn't have any food supplies. And so the call by Charles for parents to support the awards is welcoming, but already they are practicing it because he has severally seen parents who come to school with some banku to be given to the awards. And so it's a challenging situation for schools whose food supplies were stolen from the buffer stock warehouse.
Christopher, do we have any updates on that buffer stock warehouse incident?
Yeah, so apart from the 4 that were arrested, as it stands now, police are still continuing with their investigations, but some members of the community suspect that the food items were not just stolen, but they were also taken to cover up some issues of accountability. That is the allegations that they are making, members of the public in some areas in the Greater Tamale metropolis are making that. It wasn't a deliberate act that they went to steal the food, but it was a plan to cover up some accountability issues by some persons in the erstwhile government.
All right, Christopher, thank you for bringing us those updates. Christopher Makun, also my colleague in the Northern region, bringing us details on that. Let us quickly connect with the Executive Director for the Institute for Education Studies, Dr. Peter Pate. Doc, if you can hear me, what immediate actions can the new administration take to avert a full-blown food crisis in our schools? It looks like we're almost there.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners. Well, I think that they should treat the current challenge in the secondary schools like they are dealing with the energy sector. For me, to leave our kids on campus without sufficient food, and in some cases no food at all, is more like a disaster that we need to avoid. And the mere fact that the education authorities did not yield to the calls by Charles to postpone the reopening so that these challenges would be addressed, it's a testament that they are not ready to deal with the issue. So we would suggest to the current administration to put together an ad hoc committee to address this challenge so that we don't expose our children to the danger that looms ahead of us.
Doc, we know that during the electioneering period, President Mahama assured of a national conference with education stakeholders to explore ways of making free SHS better. It's obvious this area is going to come up. What more should that meeting or that conference also discuss?
Well, I think that the current challenge is very urgent, that we should find ways to address it. I know that the consultative meeting that has been proposed at the NDC will come on, but I don't foresee it happening anytime soon. Possibly by the time that we have a Minister of Education and most of the agency heads have been reinstated or have been appointed. So we are looking into somewhere ending of this month to somewhere February, and that is why I think that we should separate the current challenge in our secondary schools from that consultative meeting. There would definitely be that meeting that is going to be held, but we cannot wait till that meeting before we address the current challenge that is happening in our schools. I know you are aware that Charles is calling on parents to provide more food
for the awards.
These kids are on campus. So we should be thinking about how do we survey the situation now. And that is why some of us feel that it's important that the current administration put together a
another committee to immediately sit on the
really
issue.
Deal with it. Yeah. So
all right. Doc, so this conversation is one that would have to continue definitely on Hot Edition later today because we've run out of our time. But thank you for speaking to us. Dr. Peter Patianti is Executive Director for the Institute for Education Studies. That will be all for our package of the midday news on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Agyemang. Michael Ogbodu is standing by to update us in the world of business. Good afternoon.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Michael Ogbodu. Coming up, Dr. Kesalato Forsing and John Jinapor nominated as Minister of Finance and Energy Minister Designate, respectively, will bring speaking to an economist. Also, Ghana becomes second most indebted African country to the International Monetary Fund, IMF. We'll bring you details of the fund's quarterly finance report. And later, energy expert blames Ghana's looming energy crisis on government's inability to develop gas infrastructure. Details coming up shortly. Please stay. Thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story and news just coming in as Dr. Kesalato Forsing and John Jinapor have been nominated as Minister of Finance and Energy Minister Designate, respectively. This comes barely 48 hours after President-elect John Dramani Mahama was sworn into office. Joining us on the phone is economist and director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, Professor Peter Quartey. Prof, thank you so much for your time. What do you make of this development? Well, we'll be getting Prof. Quartey for you shortly on the line. But away from that, Ghana has become the second most indebted country in the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in Africa, according to the fund. This comes with an exposure of approximately 2.2 billion special drawings rights, equivalent to $2.9 billion as of October 31, 2024. The following three Business News Desk report has the details.
Ghana is now the second most indebted country to the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in Africa, following the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to the IMF's quarterly finances, Ghana's exposure to the fund stood at $2.242 billion special drawing rights, or $2.914 billion as of October 31, 2024. This represents 17% of Africa's total borrowings from the IMF. The Democratic Republic of Congo leads with $2.256 billion in indebtedness, while Zambia follows Ghana in third place with an SDR of $1.272 billion. Both Ghana and Zambia have defaulted on their debts, seeking relief under IMF programs. Ghana approached the IMF in January 2023 for assistance after severe economic challenges. The fund approved a $3 billion bailout package in May 2023, out of which $1.92 billion has been disbursed under the Economic Credit Facility Program. The loans are concessional with low-interest financing designed to support low-income member countries under the PLG Trust. This recent update also indicates that Ghana's indebtedness to the fund has increased compared to July 2024.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Now, the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders has called for the swift appointment of sector ministers to facilitate discussions aimed at improving the freight and logistics industry. President John Mahama, who was sworn into office on January 7, has pledged to appoint his 60 ministers within the first 120 days of his administration. Speaking to 3 Business, the Tema District Chairman of GIF, Johnny Mante, emphasized the urgency of commencing government operations to drive economic recovery.
In fact, what we are waiting, we can't wait for the appointment of a transport minister. Of course, we will also be looking at the trade minister and, of course, the finance minister, because the president of Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders has outlined certain issues and certain policy ideas that we would want to sit with these key these key ministers to be able to discuss certain issues that would essentially help the economy. Of course, the president during his campaign came to see us, and there were certain things that we discussed. So we are only waiting for these appointments, and we'll go and meet them and discuss these issues as well.
So you heard there Johnny Mante. He is the Tema District Chairman of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders. We'll go back to the phones now and speak to Professor Peter Quartey. He is the Executive Director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. Prof, thank you so much for your time. First off, what do you make of this nomination list from the presidency, especially at a time where inflation rate is still a concerning level? Energy sector issues are also rife.
Yeah, good afternoon to your discerning listeners. I believe the president has thought through this carefully with his council of elders or key people within the party and has made this nomination. I believe he's looked at the background, educational background, the work experience, and the personality of the 2 nominees in question, or we're focusing on. So for Atu, for instance, Honorable Atu Fortune, his educational background in finance, economics, taxation, etc. And also, given that he's worked in the Ministry of Finance before, and being the minority, the then minority leader, now, majority, I believe all this educational experience, educational payment experience, work experience, etc., puts him in a good position to manage the challenges we're currently facing. Inflation is edging up. We have debt issues, debt resettling or restructuring, and general livelihood issues. Fortunately, the growth rate is picking up quite well, but there are still challenges to be addressed. And I believe he would work diligently and also not just rely on his own capabilities, but rely on technical people who are also fairly grounded in economics or the economy and other social aspects, because economics or the economy is not just finance and investment, but the social ramifications of government policies on people's livelihood, etc. So I believe he will consult widely, including academia, including researchers. Then when you come to Honorable Jinapo, I see him also as another fine gentleman who holds a master's degree in development finance from the University of Ghana. He has a background in finance and law. He has an MSc in energy economics. So again, he has also worked in that ministry as a deputy minister. So that also puts him in a very good position to manage. But just like I said about Honorable Atu Fortune, he should also consult widely with technical people, rely on research as much as possible. And I believe if he does that, he will do well in the ministry.
Prof, thank you so much for your time. That was Professor Peter Quartey there sharing his thoughts on the latest announcement by President John Dramani Mahama of the fact that Kesalato Fortin, doctor, has been appointed finance minister designate, as well as John Jinapo, who has also been nominated for energy minister. Away from that as well, we'll bring you more stories now. Our stakeholders in Ghana's agricultural sector are urging the government to engage in wider consultations when selecting the next sector minister. According to Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Tete Owusu-Nortey, previous ministers failed to effectively engage with stakeholders, accept criticism, and implement necessary changes, ultimately hindering the sector's progress. He highlights broader consultations will foster a sense of ownership among stakeholders, ensuring the sector's success and food security.
We hope that during the president's consultation in appointing a new minister for food and agri, we should look after someone who has integrity, someone who is affable, someone who is approachable, someone who is open to engage stakeholders. Because, mind you, the stakeholders, they have a lot of ideas. And it is true that not all ideas can be taken, but it is important that you listen to stakeholders who have vast experiences.
That was Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Tete Owusu-Nortey, speaking. Now, finally, energy expert Dr. Yusuf Sulemana has attributed Ghana's impending energy crisis to the failure of past governments to expand the country's gas infrastructure. This lack of investment has resulted in the underutilization of Ghana's gas reserves, with less than 35% of the country's gas profile being exploited. He highlights that the absence of midstream infrastructure like the Ghana Gas Project has hindered the transportation of gas from the oil fields, leaving significant amount of natural gas untapped.
For the last 8 years, I can't possibly understand why we couldn't make an attempt to expand Ghana Gas, knowing that if you do that, it will support us in two folds. First, to have more gas to be able to generate power, and secondly, to help even improve our oil production. If you look at the current gas profile within our reserves, Jubilee Field, we have only extracted 33% out of the total in place. 10 Field, only 7% of the gas. ENI Field, only 26% of the gas. So we have trillions of gas in place, which is untapped.
So you heard that Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, he is an energy strategist, and that brings us to an end to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please visit our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is Urban Blend, and Black Rasta is on standby. Stay tuned.